Hi, my name is Asher Yaron, and I'm one of the newest members of the CASA Italia team. The expertise and focus that I bring to CASA Italia is all about coffee. For the last 10 years, I've been on a mission trying to understand more about coffee, from the cherry to the cup, the way it's grown, harvested, processed, roasted, and then finally, as baristas, how we make the best cup possible. And what I discovered was that one of the biggest factors was the difference, the time difference, between when coffee is roasted and when it's consumed. In the beginning of my discoveries, I was upgrading my espresso equipment, thinking that that was the key to making a better cup of coffee. And it wasn't until some friends gave me some fresh roasted coffee that they home roasted by themselves that I understood and discovered that the freshness of roasting coffee was the key factor to making the coffee as potent, as great tasting, and as powerful as it could be. So I began roasting my own coffee at home. I was just, it was a passion of mine, and I was on a personal quest to just get a better cup of coffee. And what I discovered was that the shorter the amount of time that I made and consumed the coffee from when it was roasted, the better it tasted, the better it felt, the more powerful I found was the ingredients and was the effect on my brain and my body. Then I created my own roaster and started doing it in a more commercial way. And I started to share what I discovered with my friends, and they couldn't believe the difference. They also felt the same way that I had felt, that fresh roasted coffee was really the best way and the way to go. Wanting to discover more about the whole coffee process, I then moved to Bali, Indonesia, where I've spent the last 4 years understanding how coffee is grown, how it's harvested, how it's processed before it's roasted. This was an important key, and what I learned is that there are so many different elements and different processes that coffee goes through from when it's first picked as a ripe cherry than when it's roasted. And what happens is during each of these processes, these stages, it's very critical and important that the coffee is treated the same way and in a way where the coffee cherry's seeds does not ferment. Because as soon as they ferment, it starts to spoil and change the coffee. So for the last 4 years in Bali, I've created a coffee growing, harvesting, processing, and roasting company. And I was producing some of the best coffee in the world from my process. Now at Casa Italia, what I'm doing is bringing my understanding about coffee here, and we are making coffee that is fresh roasted, as fresh as can be, and delivering it to the customer with a guarantee of our coffee never being older than 8 days. So what I discovered is coffee after it's roasted is like a fresh living food and loses its vitality and aliveness very quickly after about 8 or 9 days after roasting. So the best way to have the best cup of coffee is to capture the essence of the coffee as soon after roasting as possible. So here at Casa Italia, we roast fresh and we deliver to our cafes, to our franchises, and to the customers as fresh as can be. Coffee seeds start out green, and once they are dried to about 11% moisture level, they can be stored. And some people even feel that the longer they're stored, the better they get. It's not so critical to use new harvest. There is actually someone in Java who's been aging his green coffee 8 to 10 years. And what happens is the bitter taste, the tannins, start to leave the bean after a certain amount of time, so that the coffee actually gets sweeter tasting and less bitter. So understanding what happens from the cherry to the cup is an important knowledge to know if you're going to make the best coffee possible. One of the other things that we do at Casa Italia is make a product called cold pressed coffee. It's not really pressed, it's more like cold process, or what people today are calling cold brewed coffee. And cold brewed coffee is fresh roasted coffee, it's always best that way, that is ground a coarse grind and let soaked in cool water or room temperature water for a period of time. I won't divulge what that exact period of time is because for everyone it's a little bit different, and we have our own recipe that makes it the best. So I don't want to divulge any trade secrets. But the cold pressed or cold processed coffee is really a great product because it has up to 70% less acid than regular coffee. And once it is created, it can be bottled and stored in the refrigerator for 3 weeks, minimum 3 weeks time, without losing any freshness whatsoever. So we brew our cold pressed coffee, we put it in bottles, and it's always kept fresh, like our fresh roasted coffee. Our guarantee is that never more than 3 weeks from the date it was created. And the cold pressed coffee is really good for people who think they can't drink coffee because they have stomach problems or they have acid reflux, or cancer patients. I've dealt with cancer patients in the past whose doctors have not wanted them to be on coffee because it's a very acidic drink and puts them out of balance. So instead they could drink cold pressed, cold processed, cold brewed coffee with 70% less acid and not put their body so much out of an alkaline and acidic imbalance. So these few products are really revolutionary, and I think the way we're doing them at Casa Italia is as good as it gets. I've staked my my career on it and my 10 years of learning about coffee to bring to Casa Italia the best possible coffee that has the best taste and is the healthiest and has the best effects in the human body. So we call our fresh roasted whole bean coffee Coffee Olto, Coffee 8, because it's guaranteed it's never older than 8 days. And the same with our cold pressed or cold brewed coffee. It's also Olto, because when we brew the coffee, we're using fresh roasted beans, also never older than 8 days, which is also very important in the process. So go out and try some today, and I think you'll really be amazed at how good coffee can be. Thank you.